So great. My name is John Potter. I'm an associate professor in dispute resolution and conflict management in the Human-Centered Interdisciplinary Studies Department. And I've been asked if I would talk a bit about hybrid course offerings, which I'm very interested in. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I invited my friend and colleague, Jennifer Culver, to demonstrate how to assemble a hybrid program. And she's also going to show one of hers that is hybrid. She's actually the reason I got involved in hybrid courses. As I recall, we were having a conversation or walking down the hall, and she said, "John, have you ever thought about hybrid courses?" And I said, no. And she said, well, you should do one. And I did. And so now I have three. It turns out that not that many faculty use the hybrid format. And there are some reasons for that. But I thought I would talk about the successes with hybrid courses. And then one of the obstacles for a lot of faculty seems to be that they think that it's hard to put one of these together. And it really isn't if you work with the people who have knowledge on how to assemble these, and Jennifer's that kind of person. So we're going to talk a bit about how they work first. So I don't teach undergrads as a way of confession, and I don't know how many of these courses are available in this format for undergrads, but for graduate students, many of those students are non-traditional. That is to say that they are not going undergraduate, master's, doctorate, a doctoral degree. So they have an undergraduate degree, or they have a master's degree in something else, or even a doctorate or a law degree or a medical degree or whatever. And they have been in the workplace, and then they return to higher education to get a master's degree in dispute resolution as an example. So because of this, time is an important component of the student's ability to participate in the classroom. We often have students who drive more than an hour to come to campus for a class, and traffic's just getting worse, so it's probably going to be an hour and a half pretty soon. People have families, they have certain job obligations. Hybrid format offers flexibility. So currently, Southern Methodist University expects that a hybrid course be 51% or greater in the classroom, and 49% can be online, either synchronous or asynchronous. I have tried both methods. I tend to like the synchronous version a bit better for the online portion. I'll explain why in just a moment. If you subscribe to the idea that multiple ways of learning are more effective than the traditional classroom, grind it out for an hour or more and do an assignment, the hybrid format is definitely for you. Let me give you an example. I have had students who have had English as their third language. And although they can pass the tests and everything for admission, it's often more helpful to them to have a book, a PowerPoint, and a video or audio to cover the material. So why they work. So I'm a big believer in people first, program second, scaffolding, from what we've talked about previously earlier this year. One of the things I learned really quick was I needed to provide estimated reading times for students. And I get positive comments about this all the time. So if there is a chapter in a text on negotiation, I will approximate the reading time for the student. I never thought that was going to be important. I got that idea from another faculty member, but it turns out to be really important for the student. They get to budget their time. And I add 10%, then that way if they finish early, they think they're doing really well. And we talked a little bit about PowerPoints. For many of the texts that I use in the courses that I teach, there are PowerPoints already available from the publishers, which I find really helpful. They're actually quite good. So very early on, I got the idea, probably from Jennifer, to do a video. And so I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a wonderful laboratory in the Lisle School of Engineering that you can use for these kinds of recordings. And what makes that laboratory so great is there's a technician available and they are 100% awesome. You have a ceiling camera, you have 2 different side angle cameras, and all the support that you need. And the format, when I started, went like this. I would say in the introduction that imagine that this video is an opportunity that reflects what would happen if you and me, we were in a coffee shop and it was just the 2 of us. And so I would use the top camera I would have a piece of paper and some markers and I might draw a diagram and so on and so forth. And then I would have the PowerPoint as well. I could do that in the background, and we talked about that. The videos, when I started, I'd never done this before, and it took me 3 or 4 sessions until I was able to do an hour without jump cuts, and I still can. It just took some practice, was all. It's not in any way, shape, or form insurmountable. But the reason I chose an hour is it turns out, if you Google this, the average commute time in Dallas-Fort Worth is half an hour. So a student can cover the entire video in one day. Half hour to work, half hour home. Now, it's really interesting. When I started this, I had this idea that students would want the video. I figured, okay, everybody's got a smartphone, they watch YouTube. You know, it's the right way to do it. And I focused on the video aspect of it very much. I would change my clothing between videos, make sure it was different. I went to great lengths to make the video the best that I could. And it turns out that they hardly ever watch the video. It turns out that it's all audio. So now, this summer, I hope to do these videos again, but focusing this way on the audio portion. In other words, more repetition of content and so on and so forth. Again, I was surprised by that, but if you're going to do a hybrid course, I would suggest if you're going to do video, focus on the audio part of it. It turns out to be one of the most popular parts of the hybrid courses that I do. Now, I want to talk just briefly about this question at the bottom of the screen. I think it's important today to have your content both in the traditional format and also in hybrid. Would anyone hazard a guess why that might be? Well, I'll answer.
More options for accessibility?
Yeah, that sounds great. It's more about loneliness. I have been very, very surprised about this. There's an article this week in the Atlantic about being alone and being lonely. And it references a book that's been around for many years, Bowling Alone. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's a pretty big book. But it turns out that the students that I interact with long for social interaction. They long for the connection to other people. And I was really surprised. In negotiation, as an example, this term, I have maybe 2/3 of the students either have a significant drive to campus, or they're involved in a program where they really have to rush to get from where they are to the classroom. But almost uniformly, they wanted to be in the classroom. So what I've done is I focus a lot more on the social interactions in the classroom. Because if that's the need for the student, then I want to match that need and help if I can do that. I do think that this is going to get better. This is all post-COVID challenges. But I really love the hybrid format. I think it's just it offers. I think it's why the online only programs don't flourish. And it's why the traditional programs become stale. So hybrid gives you this incredible flexibility to have students in the classroom and then students be able to engage, in their life, otherwise. Well, if you have any questions for me, I'll try to answer those, but otherwise I'm going to have Jennifer show us the magic of doing a hybrid course.
Thanks, John. I'm Jennifer Culver. I'm the Senior Academic Technology Services Director in the Simmons School and the manager of SMU's Online Production Services team. And in my role here at Simmons is when John and I started to work together. And so when we talked about putting together a hybrid course, one of the things that seem to sometimes cause some hesitation is the fact that so much seems to need to be in Canvas or somewhere. So much needs to be kind of preloaded into the course. Things have to be planned out and worked out ahead of time for the students. And while some of that is true, there are a lot of resources that we have at SMU, people and otherwise, that can help you. So when you get your term and you get this empty shell that you're looking at here, one of the things that you can do right away to start giving your hybrid course some structure I would say after your syllabus is made, because once you have your syllabus, you know exactly how you're going to organize everything. And then you can come over here to Canvas and you can email Addie for a template. And the template that Addie's created is perfect because it has all of the structure that you already need, and it's got a lot of best practices already in it. And Addie didn't even know that I was going to do that. So, and she's now smiling. So I'm going to put Addie's template in. You also can see it. Some of the schools have their own templates and things like that. You can always see if that's the case, but this is the kind of tried and true one. If you've seen other people's courses that look certain ways, it's because it's using Addie's template. And so let me go ahead and import that in. And let me show you what that provides you already.
And by the way, the template can be customized. It doesn't have
Very
to be
much
done
so.
like that. She will import it as a template, but it can be fully customized.
Exactly. And so you've got the bones of a structure that you can then take and do whatever you want to do with it, but it's pre-made a bunch of things for you. And so if I click the home page, now I've got a home page. I've got a landing page for my students that all I have to do is click edit and come in and complete some of these smaller pieces. All of my communication information. I can put my current picture in here. If you don't want to, that's okay too. You can always just get rid of the picture icon, but students like to see what you look like. They like to see, that's the beginning of that instructor presence. And as John mentioned, the importance of remaining connected, even on online days, is really, really important. So them seeing you is something that students really like to have. A reminder of the times when you are meeting face to face, a Zoom link for office hours, if that's how you're going to do office hours. The Zoom link for the online sessions can be here as well. And then just a little bit about some real basic information about the course. We've also got, by importing the template, we've also got some beginning module pages as well. And these beginning module pages all have this format. And when we're in online and hybrid learning, one of the things that's really, really important for students to be able to understand very quickly is, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing right now? When is it due? And how does this connect to some of the bigger things that are going on in the course? And this overview page is structured in a way to provide that information to students very easily. So here are the objectives for the modules, and here's the work that's going to be done in those modules. You can, as Addie mentioned, you can customize this page. So one of the things that John mentioned that sometimes students like to see is that, how long does this take kind of element. So here I can just click on this button if I want to, and make a column for time here. So the students can look at this one page and see how much time they're going to need overall to get something done. And then when I hit save, now I've got that column here as well. And you can add a little bit of something at the top here that just gives them an overview of what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it. This can be really, really helpful as well, because students like to see the connection, the kind of thread that's running through, especially the thread that is running through whatever they're going to be doing at home, and how that's going to work when they're together, and how that's going to work towards whatever big project or something, if there is one, that's going to be coming along the way. And so this little beginning title page can be whatever you want it to be. It can be a short video that just kind of says, hey, this module is all about this. Here's what we're going to talk about. Here's where we're kind of heading with this. Here are the things that we're going to be doing. And let's get started. Some of that enthusiasm, the video again is more instructor presence in your course, which is really, really important for students. But if you don't want to make videos, that's okay, because you can write those things in here as well and still have it in your own voice, in that student-centered kind of voice that lets students know when they jump off into that learning where things are going to go. So you can see we've got one of these module pages in the template for every week. And we've set this up as for hybrid. Usually it's 1 week up at campus, 1 week at home. There are times when that gets changed for all sorts of reasons. But what I did in my hybrid class was I kept this weekly structure, and then I would add little pieces to it. So for example, because again, you can edit and customize any of this. So I would say week 1, and then I'd put the topic of week 1 in there. And I would say in person. And I would usually put the date. Or the real date. And so there and that way students could really quickly know, look here and see, am I in person or am I not? Now, do I have all that in the syllabus? I do. But I like having things in multiple places, because who knows where they're going to go and look. They may look here, they may look there. The first couple of weeks, I tend to also make an announcement and remind them of where we are and where to look for what they're doing, because the students need that kind of certainty. Doesn't matter if they're undergraduate or graduate students. They need the certainty that they are where they're supposed to be and doing what they're supposed to be doing, And then they know what's expected of them when they submit things. And creating all of that here in this space, making it very easy for them to find, making the course easy to navigate is really, really helpful to them, because we want them to focus on the work at hand, not on trying to figure out where all of that stuff is. So within the modules, all we have to do then is we've finished our overview page. If I want them, for example, to do some readings, then if I want to add to my modules, all I have to do is click on this plus button, and it's going to let me add things to my modules. I haven't made anything yet. I mean, we know that. We've only put in the template, but that's okay. You can make them right here on this page. So let's say I want to put in just a content page, and I'm going to say, look, see, there's my template for a page. So I'm going to put that page in there. Well, I'll show you. I'm going to click this page, and I'm going to say introductions to the course. And I'm going to want to add a file. Look how I can do that. All I have to do is come up here and say, here are the things that I can add. I can add a file. I can create a discussion. I can name it here. I usually kind of put up a list and ask them to pick any two things to share from it, because they also like to be able to have that kind of choice of what they talk about and don't talk about, especially early on when they're just getting to know you and getting to know everyone else. But you can see my modules coming together, and all I'm doing is kind of, I'm right here. Maybe I have a quiz in this first one, and I'm going to name it. I'm going to have a really easy short quiz over the syllabus, so I can know that they dug in and looked up some things and they understand how the class is going to function. Now, none of these things have anything in it yet. I come over here, I click on that page, and here it is. I can edit it, and I'm off to the races. I can put in whatever information I want to put in. I can put videos in here. I can do it just as we normally do in Canvas. If you want to still have that template look to the page, you have those templates here that we've imported. Easy to bring in. Addie and I can both show you how to do that. Your ATSD can show you how to do that as well if you're not over here in Simmons with me. And all I have to do now is just kind of move through the pages that I've made and start adding the details of what this is, and start adding some due dates. So here's my discussion. Here's where I can paste the list of things I want them to choose from to talk about. Here's where I can decide if it's graded or not. And I can fill all of these things in and save it. And you can see all those things are being kept. The quiz then is right here, and all it needs is for me to make it and move on. The syllabus, this has a syllabus template, but we also have simple syllabus. It's right down here. I would remind you, especially if we've got any undergraduate folks in here, that simple syllabus is the one that's highly recommended and getting probably close to mandatory at some point for the undergraduate folks. It does have the most current information from the provost's office about all the policies, about everything else, and everything else in simple syllabus. There's only a handful of things you have to put in there at the graduate or undergraduate level. And then you've got your syllabus in the syllabus repository, and it's really pretty easy. So while this is in here, I would go ahead and come down to simple syllabus and use that one. There really isn't anything here that other than Netiquette and a couple of other things. If you wanted to make sure that they had information like Netiquette, you can always take this information and put it onto a page and put it in that first module so they can see it there. I've made a kind of example first module for folks that want to use simple syllabus that have some of this extra information in it. If you're interested in it, let me know. Simmons folks, especially because it has some of these little smaller extra things. And that way you can use simple syllabus. If you want to take a look at this other part of the modules, though, look at how we want to have this idea of estimated time. It's hard at times to think about how much time something takes when it's not a video, because we know how long the video takes because it's however long the video is. This is where I go to figure out about time estimates, and I really like it. I'm putting it in the chat. It's from Rice University, and it gives you a lot of different things to think about as you're estimating what kind of assignment, what kind of reading, what kind of anything you're asking them to do. And then they'll give you an estimate about time. And they're going to take a look at reading rates. They'll look at density and difficulty and all those different things. They'll give you some averages here. Writing rates, again, they'll be giving you some averages for different kinds of writing. We absolutely know that students read, write, process at different speeds and at different times. And because we know that these are estimates. So the first time that you run the class, one of the things that I would check on with them is, how are the estimates? Were they off? Were they pretty good? Did it take you longer to do some of these things, or were the estimates too high? And get a feel from the students about that so that you can adjust things if necessary. If for some reason a lot of students are saying that it's taking longer, then that's a good thing to go ahead and make that adjustment for, especially so they can budget their time appropriately. Knowing, of course, that everybody is going to do this just a little bit difficult. But I like the levels of difficulty here and the purpose of reading. And here you can manually adjust several things in there as well. So even with exams, for exams, you are allowed to gauge the amount of time that you expect them to be prepping for this exam. And hopefully they're prepping for their exams if it's the kind of exam they can. Again, assignments, you're the best estimate of how long. Assignments are so varied that not very many course estimators will do much with assignments other than writing and reading. But you are you're the one that kind of should be the best guess about how long certain assignments should take. And Chris, I agree. The reading time really is, it's really hard to estimate. This estimator is really commonly used in online course development. A lot of people come back to this one in particular because they found it to be pretty accurate. And I haven't seen a lot of need to change it from here, but it is about making sure that you've hit these kinds of pieces of it really well before you estimate the time. And it's already adjusting as I go and click things. And then last, here's a look at my hybrid course from last year. It was teaching and learning with technology in the teaching and learning department over here at Simmons. So you can see over here in modules. Here's that first module that I've made that had some of the things that weren't in simple syllabus as much anymore. There's that Netiquette, the introduce yourself forum, all of those kinds of things. I've got a I've redone this for the online template, but this has been changed here, but the how to navigate, there's a video on how to navigate Canvas. There are some videos on, there's a little bit about me. Things about the course, especially here, structure and delivery. And so this is a reminder, we're going to meet every other week. And typically for me, when they're on that off day, this is a course that I inherited, and the structure of the course was supposed to stay the same. So it was supposed to be kind of a lab day where they did have things that they could do. They didn't have to do those things during that time, but they also could use that time to hop in and see me if they needed help with the big projects they were working on. So I was there all the time during both days and available to them. And I'll tell you, they used it every time. I never sat alone during any of these. Here's some things, the other things that are really important for students to know in a hybrid course: how long it takes for you to respond to emails, how long it takes for you to return work, things like that. All of those kinds of things. Again, it's giving the students some certainty and a sense of understanding. And so here's that netiquette again. That becomes important because we've got a partial online environment, and we want to kind of set some norms about how we're going to talk to each other and how we're going to treat each other. So here's one of my examples of pick a couple of things, pick something, pick 2 things to talk about. And then there's some pre-work here. And so you can see here, in class January 19th, online January 26th. And so whatever is happening during those periods of time, you can see that I've got everything kind of set for them. Their dates are set for them. And that was last spring, so ice day. And online, in class. So you can, every time they come in, they know exactly what we're going to be doing. They're going to know exactly what they're going to be doing for the week that they're off. And they can see in simple syllabus, you have the ability to add boxes of extra information at the bottom. And so I did that. So here's all the normal syllabus things. Canvas will import your assignments and due dates into simple syllabus, which is nice, but I also made this box in simple syllabus that reminded them that it was hybrid. Here's the Zoom link. It was the permanent Zoom link for the whole semester. That's one thing that I would recommend, is setting up a Zoom link for the whole semester, so it's the same link every time. And so here they could come here and take a look and see where we would be. I always remind them which room it is too, because sometimes if you go 2 weeks and you've had a hard day, these are all classroom teachers. So when they've had a hard day, you don't even remember what room you're supposed to be in. So I always put that in and remind them of that as well. And then I added some extra pieces in here, but I would also encourage you to add this box into simple syllabus, just one place where they can see what's going on every single week. And that really is getting you started, finding a way to get things organized and finding a way to make sure the students always know where something is. I think Addie's template is one of the best ways to get jump started into all of these things. She's done a lot of great work. It reflects best practices in course design, and she gives you an immediate structure that you can grab and hold on to. I'm going to send it back to John.
Yeah, you know, this is a really interesting time that we have had together. There are some things that you do in hybrid courses that you wouldn't think would be helpful, or that you think you don't have to do. And it turns out it's exactly the opposite. And I'll give you an example that Jennifer rubbed up against 5 or 6 times. In the syllabus, it will say classroom online, classroom online, classroom online, as clear as it can possibly be, right? And it's the most common question I get. Are we going to be online next week or in the classroom? And so now I've taken to this idea that if there's something important, I'm going to tell the students 3 times. I'll send it in an announcement if that's the way to do it. I'll have it, you know, in the assignment. I'll make sure that if it's important, I will tell them 3 times in 3 separate ways. And again, the things that you think they wouldn't, you know, need to be reinforced are the ones that need to be reinforced. And the things that you know, anguish over, you know, when you create this big spreadsheet and all of that, they don't, it's a really interesting technique. But I think if you practice just a little bit and work with Jennifer or Addie or you know, just keep working at it, it doesn't take very long for it to come together really, really well. Also on the video part, you can use Panopto and Zoom to do this. And like for myself, it just turns out that my office at SMU is well lit. So I can do a really nice Zoom video in a very short time. And again, it didn't take very long to where I don't need to make jump cuts. I do every now and then, but most of the time I can do it without jump cuts. So some of the things that we think might be harder to do, they turn out to be easier. And so like on the assignments as an example, or estimating time, whatever estimate I have, I add 10%. And if you think about it from a human-centered standpoint, if the student finishes early, they think they're smart, right? Right. And if it takes them longer, they'll say, well, you know, like I'll do what Jennifer said. I'll ask, did you have enough time? And if they didn't have enough time and they let me know, I can interrogate that a little bit closer and see if I need to add more time, or maybe the assignment was more difficult than I thought it would be. And in terms of office hours, I've done those on Zoom for sure, many, many times. But I got this idea from Jill DeTemple, who's a colleague of mine in another school. And so now currently, even in a hybrid course, I offer office hours in the Fondren Starbucks. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but even when people don't show up, they think it's amazingly cool that I do that. Right. And so I think part of this, there's a certain performance aspect to the hybrid course. It's just different. And some things that you think aren't important are really important. And some things that you think are really, really important aren't important. But once you get it figured out, it's a whole lot of fun. And I think I mentioned before, I get more comments from students about me providing the estimated time to do the work than almost anything else. They really appreciate that. And then on the other hand, today, right now, they really appreciate the human connection part. So even in the future, I'm going to try to do more of that in the hybrid format, but I love having both available. And by the way, you know, you have to get this format approved. You have to go through, like in my school, academic affairs and so on and so forth. But my experience with that, quite frankly, has been not that many people know about the format. So once you explain it to them, they're enthusiastic. I mean, I've only had one syllabus I had to go back and rework. People are really interested in this format, and I hope we've been able to encourage you to give it a try. What questions do you have? Do you have any questions for us? Like, where'd I get this cool Zoom background? It's available on the internet. Saying, yeah. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you. This is great.
It's fun. Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great. So you know how to get us. And if we can help you, we'll do it. Anything you want to add, Addie, here at the end?
No, I think that hybrid is one of my favorite formats because I do think that combines the best of both worlds. It has the flexibility, like you said, but it just maximizes the time that you have in person with people. Like, you are more intentional about the activities. I think that all of the best practices that you talked about in hybrid can be applied for any other courses, like even the estimations. Like, you should be doing that for any courses. But I think that once you teach a hybrid course, you're more aware of these best practices, and I think it seeps in into a regular teaching. So I would recommend anybody to teach a hybrid course for sure. And I think that each school might have different processes for being able to, I guess, ask for or be able to have the permission to teach a hybrid course. You can't just say, you cannot just have a regular class, to be clear. If your class is on the catalog as a face-to-face class, you cannot just say, oh, I'm just going to make it a hybrid. We cannot do that. So there's got to be some sort of approval, and each school has a specific approval process. So you have to go into your school and determine what is that approval process that you have to need to be able to do the hybrid class. But I think it's great, and particularly for any students that are commuting, if you know that your population of students is a commuter population, particularly if you have a graduate population, you might consider doing something like this. And then can be very, very intentional about the in-person classes and do activities that really maximize your presence, and everything else can be done in other formats.
It's really informed me on what the obstacles are on a totally online program. Like, I think I understand more now what it would take to make a totally online program really come alive.
Yeah.
By doing hybrid, because you can see the contrast. To your point, when you can match the material to the students' needs, and you can really exploit that. Once you find out, you can continue to work with it and make it better and better. Yeah, I'm a big fan of hybrid for sure.
And it is a less bureaucratic process than doing an online course, right? Because once again, the reason why, there's many, many reasons we have more online courses, but there is some bureaucracy. There's certain things that are not just SMU related, but Department of Education related that, keep us not expanding a lot of our online programs or not having more. But even if you want to have an online program, and Jennifer can speak on that, you have to get SMU continue online involved, like continue education, and there is some bureaucracy involved that it's harder. But a hybrid program, a hybrid course would be an easier thing for you, at least for you to get some experience in this format.
Yeah, it's not considered,
and there's a lot of support.
It's not considered as substantive a change to as moving something totally online. And there's, like Addie said, there's a lot of other conditions to look at when online gets discussed. But I also think that one of the things that's really nice about hybrid is that it can move very easily into the way you teach face-to-face classes. When you think about it in that flipped model, classroom model of teaching, where some of the content gets taken in the off time, and the discussions, the activities, the projects, all of those things happen in real time when you're together with people. And that kind of thinking about it is a lot of how hybrid looks at those off times as well. The off times are for taking in content, performative kinds of pieces, for things like that, so that when you get together, you're able to interact and engage and really work through scenarios and do all sorts of very active things. And Chris, yes, ideally hybrid courses also are going through Quality Matters reviews. The QM rubric has some annotations about how to look at hybrid a little bit differently. So it's the same rubric, but there are some slight variations in how you look at things.
You know, it's a really good point you brought up about the hybrid and then the traditional classroom. It's really easy to convert. It's not difficult at all. Much to my surprise, I thought it was gonna be hard, and it turns out to be really easy. I mean, it's
But
so,
ideally, you would like to do that before you teach the class. Ideally, you
Yeah.
don't want to be doing the conversion as you go.
yeah,
Is it possible? Absolutely. Anything is possible if you put your mind to it, right? And you have the support. But I think that you have a better peace of mind if you allocate some time, you know, at the time that you are not teaching that specific class to think about it. And there's a lot of support between the CTE and academic technology. People can help you put it together so you don't have to figure out on your own. That will save you some time. But yeah.
in the first negotiation course this term, which was face-to-face, it was hybrid, right, but it was face-to-face. The students, 2 or 3 of them said, well, can't we meet every week? And I'm like, well, you know, this is hybrid. Don't you want to have like you don't have to commute? And 2 or 3 other students said, well, we want to be here. I'm like, I don't want to be here. I mean, that's right, you know, right? Like, anyway, and so it's like a 10-minute conversation. I'm like, okay, so we won't do it hybrid. And the next week, the most garrulous, outspoken student brought cookies. I was so surprised. But if to your point, if you need to turn this, you can turn it on a dime if you need to. You know, so the other way around, I suppose I could do that. You know, if we were face to face and, you know, 5 students lived in Rockwall and they were doing construction on 30 and their commute was going to be 2 hours, we could convert it to hybrid because it's available. And if I get in trouble, I'll just, you know, call Jennifer or Addie or, you know, you know, and say, save me, you know, which they have always been able to do. Because I can get myself in real trouble. I'm really, really good at that. Do you have any other questions for any of us? So otherwise, if we quit like 10 minutes early, you'll think we're awesome. No other questions? Well, good. Well, thanks to everybody for being a part of this. It's really, CTE is a really important part of this campus, and I hope we all take advantage of it.
And for
Okay.
the record, John, I think you're actually only ending 2 minutes early. The email
That's
said
right,
it went
yeah.
to 1:50. Yeah.
Then I better just like end the meeting right now, get that 2-minute credit. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.